are your problems when you don't think about them? Ask this question to yourself, and instead of looking for a mental reply or answer to that question, try sitting in the silence that's here after the question is asked. The question is rhetorical. Be here with no expectations of receiving an answer. Just fully be with the silence that's always here. Now, if you did this, you would have noticed that none of these problems that you claim to have don't exist in that space. They only come back once you hold on to the thoughts. You see, problems only exist on a mental level. Problems are conceptual along with situations, and they're only appearing to be real when you're believing the thoughts to be real. But to be fair, the mind does a real good job at making these thoughts and problems appear real. And the reason why the mind is so fixated on the problems it creates because it's also fixated on finding solutions. It's a part of the mind's conditioning. This cycle of problem and solution is keeping the energy, the ego alive and in control. We were taught from a very young age to search for problems and then find solutions. For example, school plays a big part in this. There has been multiple times in school where we had to find the problem and then find a solution, and we had to think our way through that process. So, in a way, we also condition our minds to perceive life outside of school this way. Notice how your mind may be constantly searching for solutions and things to fix. You may take the identity of a fixer. So it may say, I have anxiety. This is a problem, and I need to fix it. And this is a cycle that we tend to get stuck in, and it will never end until you realize these problems that the mind are creating don't exist. There is nothing to fix. You don't have to believe in them because what the mind is claiming to be what's happening isn't what's happening. You have to really embody the fact that you cannot experience something that you aren't experiencing right now, and you cannot think experience. You can only experience experience. We can stay on the topic of anxiety. Let's say anxiety rises in your experience. Thoughts about something bad or wrong happening in a future that doesn't exist appears. These thoughts, of course, then trigger a sensation in the body, a very strong and uncomfortable sensation, usually in the chest and maybe in the face. Now, if you don't try to distract yourself, you can actually effortlessly become aware of how the mind works once this trigger occurs, which will allow you to build your discernment from the truth and the lies of mind. It's constantly telling stories that are labeled problems, an attempt to keep you away from actually realizing the reality of what's appearing in the now. It continues to create these problems, and then there is a background thought that rises that is seeking for a way to fix them. So while a problem is appearing, a solution is also rising, and this seek to find a solution to these imaginary problems is usually coming from resistance to sensations in the body. But what would happen if you stopped paying attention, or I'll say stopped believing in the story of the mind? This problem that the mind claims there to be wouldn't exist anymore. Yes, there may still be that sensation in the body, but even that sensation will no longer be seen as an issue. That sensation can be seen for what it truly is. It's not anxiety. I'll call it energy, but it doesn't need any label. It doesn't have a name once you experience it directly, and that applies to everything. So you can drop the concepts of good and bad, and right and wrong. This will allow you to fully be in the moment with these sensations. The only reason why sensations can be seen as a problem is because you think it's a problem. You think uncomfortable means something is bad. You think uncomfortable means you have to fix something. And of course, that's understandable. Nobody wants to constantly feel uncomfortable, and it is okay to want to feel good. But nothing is wrong with anything until there is a belief in the thought that says there is, regardless of what it is. If we are strictly speaking of the truth, there is no problem with anything until you believe there is. Now I know some egos will try to find some excuse to why this fact doesn't apply to their external situations that the mind has created a story about. It may say, well, you don't understand what I'm dealing with. You don't understand what I'm going through. My problems are real. But just for a couple seconds in this very moment, and the only moment you will ever experience, is there is problem if you don't buy into the thoughts that there is. Now, I am not saying to allow yourself to be in situations that you know you shouldn't be, and just because I'm saying there isn't truly a problem. No, that's not what I'm saying. If you are in an abusive relationship, for example, of course, this is something you shouldn't allow yourself to experience, simply because it's not a pleasant and peaceful way of experiencing a genuine relationship. Now, even me saying that is an opinion, because believe it or not, there are people out there who look past the abuse in relationships. Some may believe it's not much of a problem. It's only a problem once you believe it is, or it's not a problem once you believe it isn't. But this isn't about believing if it's a problem or not. It's not about belief at all. If you completely let go of beliefs, there isn't anything wrong with anything naturally in that moment. You don't have to try to make something not a problem. It's already not a problem naturally once thoughts aren't believed in, because it's the truth of reality. So how can we begin to let go of what we believe to be problems? Well, first, realize if there isn't actually a problem with anything, then that means there isn't anything to fix. Meaning this moment is perfect as it is, and this cannot be seen by trying to think about that. You don't need thought to realize anything I'm saying honestly. One way to begin to notice the reality of reality is for you to notice the silence that's always present instead of listening to my words. Notice the silence underneath it. Notice the silence underneath all sounds. This is the place where sound rises from. Sound is born from this place, and then it dies back into it. You can notice the same space behind those thoughts. Thoughts can't appear without this space. You don't have to create this silence. It's already there. You don't have to look for it. It's already there. You don't have to imagine it or try to hear it. It's already here. While thoughts are creating problems and trying to figure out what to do, just notice the silence that can never go anywhere behind the mind activity and allow those thoughts to come and go. As you stay here effortlessly, you really begin to see how whatever the mind is thinking about isn't actually happening. It's not real at all. You begin to really recognize that thoughts don't carry any reality to them. Thoughts have no reality. Thoughts aren't anything. They don't mean anything and they carry no weight. It's not like you can feel a thought. You can only feel a feeling. Notice that. And these feelings are not proof that these thoughts mean something. For example, you can have 100 different thoughts constantly changing and telling you different stories about this sensation. All are the same sensation, and the body stays the same regardless of what story is connected to it. None of those thoughts are truth about that feeling. Even the mind says, this is fear. That's not what it is. The sensation has no name. The sensation has no story. The sensation is just a sensation. The sensation is not proof that the problems the mind creates are real, because you can experience this sensation without those thoughts. There is no problem when you are thinking about one. There also isn't a separate me here when you are thinking about one. There is just what's here. There is just whatever is being experienced in this moment. And if you choose to see this, know that you cannot conceptualize this to see it. You have to drop the interest in the mind to realize the truth, because you will never find what you are looking for there. It's not there, it's here. And here can only be experienced. Experiencing is not experienced through thoughts.